Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This one is fresh and still unfolding, but it's already hit an explosive level. Some details are intentionally vague. Context: I'm a woman in my 30s with a reasonably good corporate-type job in a field with lots of room for growth, and I'm recently back into the dating scene after a decade. I'm kind of a would-be a 10 if she lost 30 pounds looking girl. Beautiful face, if a bit choppy, but I never have issues getting a date. I'm not well off, but I'm stable and have a bit of spending money. I live in a large multicultural city and my ex was an immigrant, so I'm open to dating people of any origin. What happened? A few weeks ago, I met a very charming man from a Latin American country, only a couple of years younger than me. Seemed very sweet, cuddly, intelligent, family-oriented, emotionally available, educated, and in a good profession back home in his country. And he had a lot in common with me. Chemistry seemed amazing inside and outside the bedroom. He was honest that he was in my country on a tourist visa but hoping to stay. I made it clear I wouldn't be able to help him with that, but we'd have a fun summer fling while he was here. If he managed to stay or come back, only then would we consider a real relationship. Then the other shoe dropped. A couple weeks and 4 dates in, during a text conversation about my work, he asked me to be his sugar mommy. I initially laughed and assumed it was a joke. He kept pushing and clearly said it wasn't. Of course, feeling insulted by this, I went off on him. He maintained it as a serious task until I hit a nerve with my complaints about how embarrassed he should be to ask me that. Then he got angry and insulted me for thinking he was serious about it. No apology for being hurtful to me. Obviously, what I did next was take screenshots and cry about it to my closest friends. I was hurt that I was fooled into thinking he liked me and that he thought I needed to pay for a man. My friends started the fuse on what happened next. One of my friends started snooping more on his online presence. Together we found about 6 different Instagram accounts that were him using different variations of his name and different photos of himself, all uploaded in batches. On Facebook, a similar pattern, all very scammy and suspicious looking. He'd been foolish enough on one of his profiles though to follow and tag the employer that he was working for illegally on his tourist visa in my country. So, I contacted another close friend in a local law enforcement agency that works with immigration. She looked up his file and he had a wife and a daughter at home. I released the hounds after that. The friend who'd helped me investigate online made several group chats on multiple platforms with all of his family, immediate and extended, and friends too. She released all the screenshots as well as a rant about how shameful it was. As they started blocking her, she added more people. I found his sister's phone number and she sent her messages there too. Everyone he knows, including his wife, knows he's unfaithful and trying to take advantage of women. 30 minutes after the online bombardment started, I got a rude message from him about how I should be smart enough to know he was joking and he doesn't need to sell himself. I didn't reply. Next step: online immigration reporting form was all the information we found. Work info, employer name and address, his home address as well, full name, job, photos, screenshots admitting to working. Usually these reports take months to be reviewed if at all, but I gave the file number to my law enforcement friend. 2 days later, law enforcement officers visited him at home. They found him with a phone number that was issued to a local resident. All his roommates also had numbers issued to the same person, a direct link to the employer. He received a caution for trying to scam me, a no-contact order and a flag on his immigration file that based on his country of origin will likely mean he can never return, as well as a strict warning to not work without authorization. His roommates also received warnings. His employer received a visit next. They found significant proof that they had been employing him illegally, as well as multiple other people. Their investigation is still ongoing, but so far, they are likely to receive tens of thousands in fines or possible jail time. The guy isn't getting deported because the government would have to pay for it and proceedings take longer than his remaining visa time. But he is now upgraded from a flagged file to a multi-year ban on re-entry to my country. If he bothers me again though, he will be deported as well. Hope he enjoys going back to his angry wife and the ridicule from everyone he knows. See ya again, never. So there I was standing on a porch of the old house that my grandparents left me in their will. The place had an old-fashioned charm, a quiet charm, and it was located in a neighborhood where everyone seemed to know each other. My parents and the rest of the family got their share of the inheritance too, so it wasn't like I was handed the whole estate on a silver platter. I convinced my girlfriend, who's 4 years younger than me, to move in with me. We thought it was going to be a fresh start and new adventure. The house was lovely, with its wooden accents and cozy corners. We felt like we were in a classic movie starting a life together in this inherited home. At first everything was great, the house was cozy and the neighbors were friendly. But as fate would have it, we had one neighbor who was the epitome of entitled, Karen. We first met Karen when we were in the yard, admiring the old pink ivory tree. It was ancient and majestic, with a vibrant hue that stood out against the greenery. Little did we know that this tree would become the source of all our troubles. "Hey there!" Karen's voice cut through our moment. We turned to see her standing there, hands on her hips. She was looking at us with that condescending smirk. "Oh hi, we're new here," I said, trying to be polite. "That tree!" She pointed a manicured finger at the pink ivory tree. "It's pluck in my view." I exchanged a baffled look with my girlfriend. Sorry, we didn't plant it, it was already here." "Well, you need to do something about it. It's blocking my sunlight, and it's probably lowering my property value." I was taken aback by her audacity, but my girlfriend chimed in. "Well, it's a beautiful tree, and we'd like to keep it." Karen says, "You better not get too attached. I have connections, you know." And so there it was, our first encounter with Karen, the entitled neighbor from hell. We thought maybe it was just a one-time thing, but nope, it surely wasn't. Little did we know that this was just the beginning of our ongoing war with her. As we stood there looking at the ancient tree that had unwittingly become a symbol of our struggle, I couldn't help but wonder how a simple tree could lead to such chaos in our lives. And as I gazed at it, I had a feeling that our peaceful start in this new home was about to take an unexpected turn. You know, that tree was more than just a tree to me. It had stood in our yard for as long as I could remember. A proud and ancient sentinel of the past. My grandparents cherished it, told stories about it, and considered it a part of our family history. It was more valuable than any material possession. Karen, though, had a different perspective. She was jealous, openly so, of our tree. She couldn't stand the thought of us having something that she didn't. I still remember one of the times she yelled at us about the tree. "I can't believe you're keeping that monstrosity in your yard," she shrieked. I told her, "It's a beautiful tree and it's been here for generations." "I don't care. I can't bear the sight of it. It's an eyesore," she retorted. Her jealousy seemed to have no bounds. She'd approached us at the most inconvenient times, complaining and demanding we cut down our precious pink ivory tree. I remembered how my grandparents had told me stories about Karen's past antics. She had harassed him as well. But my grandpa, a man of few words and immense patience, had always managed to keep her at bay. Once, though, he'd had enough. He grabbed his shotgun and scared her away when she had crossed the line by trespassing onto our property to complain about the tree. Now, with my grandparents no longer here to protect the tree, Karen seemed to think she had free rein to unleash her fury. She thought we were easy targets. Maybe she believed that without my grandpa's watchful eyes, she could finally rid the neighborhood of the tree she loathed so much. Then it happened. It was one of those nights when everything changed in an instant. We were sound asleep, wrapped in the comfort of our new home, when an urgent pounding on the door shattered the silence. My heart raced as I stumbled out of bed, half awake and disoriented. I opened the door to my next-door neighbors, panic etched onto their faces. "Your tree is on fire!" They yelled with fear in their voices. I felt a jolt of shock course through me. The tree, our cherished tree, was burning, Without thinking, I grabbed my girlfriend's hand and we rushed outside, our hearts pounding as hard as the fire engine sirens that soon filled the night air. In a matter of minutes, the street was alive with flashing lights and a deafening sound of water being sprayed. The firefighters paddled the flames, gushing water toward the tree, and it was a fierce fight, one that felt almost surreal in its intensity. I watched helplessly as the fire danced and roared, consuming the tree that had been a silent witness to so much of our family's history. The firefighters managed to contain the blaze, preventing it from spreading to nearby houses and cars. But the tree, the beautiful pink ivory tree that had been a part of our lives for generations, was damaged beyond repair. I couldn't hold back the tears that welled up in my eyes. I remembered the stories my grandparents had told me, the memories I had made under its shade, and the connection I had felt to this tree. As the firefighters worked to extinguish the last embers, a new presence arrived on the scene. The Arson Investigation Unit. The captain, a no-nonsense man, took one look at the scene and voiced what I had been thinking all along. "This doesn't look natural. There's something off about this fire," he said. In that moment, I felt pure anger. Who would want to destroy our tree? Was this just a random act of vandalism or something more sinister? My mind raced with questions. The investigators began their work examining the scene for clues, trying to piece together what had happened. As the days passed, the investigation into the fire intensified. The initial suspicions of arson were confirmed when evidence of accelerants and multiple ignition points were found. It was clear now that the fire wasn't a tragic accident. Someone had deliberately set out to destroy our tree, my family's legacy. The investigators broadened their search, casting a wide net to find any possible leads. The neighborhood was buzzing with talk of the fire and everyone seemed to share in the collective shock. It was during this time that the focus of the investigation took an unexpected turn. A neighbor just across the street had recently installed security cameras, and when the investigators reviewed the footage, they struck gold. There she was, plain as day, the source of all our misery. Karen, sneaking out in the dead of night, what appears to be a can of gasoline in her hand, and she approaches our tree carefully while looking left and right. The footage revealed her pouring the gasoline all over the tree. Then she ignites the tree and hurries back to her house, leaving destruction in her wake. The investigators wasted no time in bringing the evidence to light. After Karen was arrested, the legal wheels began to turn. The courtroom became the stage for the final act of this bizarre situation. Karen was charged with arson, and as the trial unfolded, the evidence painted a damning picture of her actions. The truth was clear and it wasn't long before the verdict was delivered. Guilty. The judge sentenced Karen to 1 year in prison, a small fraction of the time that our family had spent cherishing the pink ivory tree she destroyed. She was also ordered to pay restitution and a hefty $100,000 compensation for the loss of our tree. As time moved on, we planted new trees, ones that would carry forward the spirit of the pink ivory tree that once stood there. Hey there! I've got a little story to share with you about some family drama that unfolded in my life. You know, I've always been an active member of my community and I've spent years making my town a better place. But there is this one person who's been testing my patience. My daughter-in-law. I'm a young mother-in-law, just 39 years old, with a husband blessed us with financial stability. Lucky, I know. I've got kids, raised them up, and as they grew more independent, my hubby and I decided that I'll continue being a homemaker and focus on community work. Makes sense, right? I've been pouring my energy into bettering the neighborhood. Now, my oldest son, the sprightly 22-year-old, decides to tie the knot. Naturally, I am thrilled. A wedding is a special time for any family. But enter my daughter-in-law. She's quite the business-oriented, blunt as a hammer kind of gal. To be honest, we don't exactly click. But hey, I'm all about family, so I make an effort for my son's sake. Let's dive into a few incidents that illustrates why I've been struggling with her. It all started with a wedding gift I got her. I handed it over, all smiles, saying it's from both me and my hubby. And you know what she says? Just your husband's, because I know it wasn't your money that paid for it. Ouch. Then there is a volunteering I do. Apparently that doesn't count as a real job since it doesn't rake in the cash. I've chatted with my son about this and even tried clearing the air with her, but it's been a bumpy ride. Now here is where the juicy part begins. We decided to have a little get-together at our place. I decided to whip out a delicious homemade meal. You know the whole deal. And guess who decides to rain on my parade? Our dear daughter-in-law. She walks up to me while I'm cooking and quips, "No wonder you can make a home-cooked meal. You don't do anything else with your day." I kid you not, I lost it. I reached my limit and gave her a piece of my mind. I told her that she needs to show some respect or kindly get the hell out of my house. And you know what happened next? She was stunned. The audacity, right? But here is the twist. She starts crying and sobbing, and I'm just standing there flabbergasted. I mean, who would have thought she'd react like that? So I did what I thought was right. I asked her to leave. She is bawling her eyes out and I'm feeling extremely frustrated. Fast forward, my son's pretty darn angry with me. We have this massive argument and he doesn't hold back. He calls me a huge jerk. Ouch. Again. Now here is where I need your input, guys. Was I out of line? I mean, should I have just sucked it up and dealt with her constant digs for the sake of the family harmony? Or was it about time someone set some boundaries? I know my son's mad at me, but should I have let her keep disrespecting me in my own home? I am genuinely torn here. Listen, life's not all black and white and family dynamics can get messy. I love my son to bits and it hurts that we're at odds right now. But at the same time, I believe in standing up for yourself and demanding respect. What would you do if you were in my shoes? How would you handle a situation like this? I'm all ears. Sometimes you need a little outside perspective to see things clearly. And that's why I'm here sharing my story with you. And now some comments on the post. Not the jerk. Wow, she is really acting like a jerk. Just because you don't act the same way she does with her business focus doesn't mean you've made mistakes. What you and your husband have works for both of you. And you also help your community by volunteering. Even if it doesn't bring in money, it doesn't lessen the effort and care you put into helping others. Your daughter-in-law's behavior is completely absurd. I'm curious, what does your husband think about all of this? Another commenter adds, "I'm sorry to have to bring this up, but it seems like your son might not be treating you with the respect that you deserve as well. She acted like she was better than you more than once, and your son should have stopped that from happening the first time. I believe that having basic respect for your partner's parents is really important. Honestly, you should have a conversation with him. Just the three of you without his wife. Try to understand what's going on. Maybe this woman is twisting the truth or maybe not. Your son can't see how wrong her behavior is and doesn't talk to her about it. You might want to limit the time you spend with both of them for as long as necessary. Ideally, you should keep your distance until he realizes what's actually happening." A third commenter goes with, "This is actually common. She probably thinks that now that all of OP's children are grown up or in school, she doesn't need to stay at home anymore. Instead of getting a job, OP has chosen not to work and people like her might see this as lazy. They don't really care that you worked non-stop for years. What matters to them is that you're not working at the moment." There was a discussion on Reddit about a week ago where a woman had been a stay-at-home mom for more than 20 years. Her partner was a doctor and earned a lot of money. They had 4 children, and because of the way things worked out, she always had at least one child under the age of 5 for 12 years straight. Her partner and she got divorced when she was around 44 years old. The comments on that post were full of men being unfair to her and saying mean things because she didn't have a job and was receiving alimony. Some people were even suggesting that she find a job and stop taking alimony without considering that the only jobs available to her might not pay enough to live on, like retail jobs which do not pay much. These commenters didn't understand why this doctor, who was paid really well, had to give money to his ex-wife who practically raised all 4 of his children on her own while he was always working. According to what OP, the ex-wife said, he worked in a hospital and had his own practice too, I think. He would go straight from one job to the other. These commenters didn't see how his career and life were made better by her giving up her own career. She worked in an office-type job, but they both agreed that she could quit and be a stay-at-home mom because it made more sense financially. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.